Hi everyone, you're listening to Transplants, the advice podcast for city transplants navigating a big move and all the trials and tribulations that come with it, like dating, apartment hunting, making new friends, all that fun stuff. Today's episode is actually the last episode of season 2, and I wanted to give you guys 5 of the top cities to move to post-grad. Season 1, I ended with my top 10 lessons I've learned since moving away from home, so I thought it'd be great to give you another list to wrap up this season. All of the cities on this list I have either visited or lived in myself, and so I'm just giving you my best recommendation based off of my experiences as well as things that I've seen online. If there's a city I didn't cover that you think should be on this list, please leave it in the comments below. And if you want me to do a deep dive into any of these cities on this list or otherwise, please let me know because I'm definitely down for that. I didn't include New York or LA on this list because those are cities we all know and love. They're aspirational. Everybody wants to go there. I wanted to focus on more mid-tier cities that are growing and up and coming because they are on the rise and a lot of young people are moving there. This top 5 list is in no particular order, but the last one is the most underrated. Without further ado, let's get into the top 5 cities that you should move to post-grad, with the first one being from my home state, Texas. Hey, learn that from Texas. Popping up, knee on every exit. Okay, Texas, we know the big 3 are Dallas, Austin, and Houston. Honestly, I would say they're all great cities. They all have their pros and cons. The one that I had to include on this list is Dallas because that's where I'm from. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm closer to Fort Worth, but I spent, some time in Dallas as I've grown up over the years, and I would say Dallas is a really great city to live in. I do like Austin and Houston for their own reasons. I would say Austin is less diverse than Dallas and Houston, but there's a lot of fun. The food is really great. I went there for undergrad at UT, Hook 'em Horns. Arch Manning, I'm praying for you because the season has been interesting thus far. But anywho, Austin was fun. I really enjoyed my time in undergrad, and I really loved living in a city. Like, the campus is in the heart of the city, so it's accessible to a lot of different things, whether you're trying to network, you're trying to see nature, you're trying to go shop. There's so much to do in Austin. I feel like it's a good mix between like the city life and like nature. And then Houston, she's a different beast, but she's a lot of fun. There's a lot of Black people in Houston, which we love. Very diverse. Texas overall, I would say, is pretty diverse. Just because of our proximity to Mexico, and the food here is so good. So much good Tex-Mex, so much good Asian food too. You're going to meet a lot of different people in Texas, and I think honestly out of the big 3, you can't really go wrong, but wanted to take some time to focus on Dallas today. Out of the big 3 of the cities in Texas, I would say Dallas is the most uppity. Like, Austin is more laid back, chill. The city's catchphrase, I guess, is keep Austin weird. So you're going to meet some interesting people in Austin. Houston, to me, gives me more like party vibes, fun vibes. There's definitely room for like hustle and ambition and like getting things done. But Dallas is the more corporate-y side of that, and more, again, like hustle culture, but more of like the uppity, stuck up type of way, especially in the surrounding suburbs like Frisco, Plano, South Lake, things like that. I wouldn't let that deter you from moving to Dallas. I would just keep that in mind. With that being said, there's a lot of job opportunities in Dallas and Texas overall. There's a lot of tech companies and a lot of Fortune 500 companies based here, specifically in Austin and Dallas, and honestly Houston. All of the cities have really good job opportunities. There's so many jobs opening up in tech, engineering, and many different industries, and there's a lot of people moving here. There's a lot of families moving here, but I feel like there's also a lot of young people moving here because of the opportunity and because of the proximity to all 3 of the big cities in relation to each other. The social life with all these people moving, and in addition to the natives, I feel like is really good because, like I said, there's a lot of young people, especially in the city, so there's always people going out. The nightlife is extensive. There's so many blocks of bars and clubs and different things that you can go to at night. I love going to a little Afrobeats function. Like, there's always some type of Afrobeats bar. There's always like a Latino bar. Like, there's so many different things you'll find like your tribe for sure in Dallas, and you'll never be bored on like a Friday or Saturday night. Like I said, I'm closer to the Fort Worth area, and I oftentimes find myself looking at Dallas for things to do because Fort Worth is growing for sure. It's definitely a growing city, but it's smaller than Dallas by I don't know how much. So I'm always finding myself like going to Dallas for a move. I mentioned the proximity between the big three cities in Texas. So Dallas is like a 3-hour drive from Austin and a 4-hour drive from Houston. The driving is not ideal, but if you live in Texas, be prepared to drive because the state is huge. You can drive 10 hours one way and still be in Texas. And it's been, the driving is humbling, especially because one, there's so much traffic. 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., you are going to hit traffic, especially in Austin where there's like one freeway going through the city. It's really annoying and really unfortunate. And two, the drivers here are reckless and be speeding, bumping and jiving, weaving and bobbing through the lanes. It's not fun. It's not cute. I do be having road rage sometimes, but hey, here we are. So beware of that before moving here. But there's proximity, like I said, to the big three cities within Texas, but also the airports that we have in Dallas. We have two, Dallas Love Field and DFW. They fly to a lot of the major cities as well as internationally. DFW is our international airport, and you can get to a lot of different destinations. I recently flew to Barcelona with my family from DFW airport, straight shot, and that was a really nice, convenient flight. The flight prices from Dallas are relatively cheap. The only thing I would say from my experience living in Columbus, the Dallas to Columbus flight is always like $300, $400, and spending that money twice during the holidays is not ideal. Very unfortunate, but Dallas is like basically in the middle of the country, just in the south, so it's not like too far to get from either coast. If you want to get to California or New York, the flight is usually like 3, 4, 5 hours. It's not like too unbearable, which is really great. In addition to the job market that I think makes living in Texas really great and like the money aspect really great, we have no state income tax, which is amazing, especially as we're all, trying to build wealth, trying to build our generational wealth and all that fun stuff. We have no state income tax. The average rent here for like a 1-bedroom is around $1,500. Obviously, it depends on where you're at, the area, proximity to different things. So take that with a grain of salt. But I would say Dallas is more reasonably priced in terms of cost of living in comparison to other major cities. I know I've already talked about the food here, but y'all, the food in Texas is so good. Even if you don't like Mexican food, there's so many different restaurants and things to try from so many different cultures. Like even the barbecue, y'all. I didn't like barbecue growing up, but now that I'm older and my palate has developed, I'm definitely becoming a barbecue girly. So there's so many good spots that you'll find, and I've had the best nachos in my life in Texas. The place that I love is literally 15 minutes from my house. I'm not gonna share, but if you want if you want the name of the place, let me know. Send me a little DM because it's so good. It's life-changing, truly. In Texas too, we have a lot of sports. Dallas Cowboys, the Houston Spurs is the basketball team. Like truly football, basketball, and baseball, I would say, are big out here. So if that's your vibe, I definitely recommend. I'm also I come from a soccer family, and there's soccer teams that come out here. We have like the local FC teams that are really good. And I enjoy going to those games as well. I would say the people in Texas, in the South, I feel like the Southern hospitality thing is real. There's so many nice people. Everyone is gonna, treat you kindly, greet you with a smile, greet you with a how are you. There's not a lot of instances that I can recall where someone has been rude. Obviously, you're gonna get that type of interaction if you're just a human existing in the world, but it doesn't occur as often as if I was maybe in New York or something, you know what I mean? I feel like everyone here is super nice, super cordial, and there's so many people looking for things to do. Like there's so many events where you're going to meet different people who are from here, who are not from here. And I think it's just a really exciting city for transplants. especially for those in the African community. I feel like the African community in Dallas and Houston especially are really strong and they run deep, especially the Congolese. Hello, my people. But yeah, the African community in Dallas and Houston are really strong, really powerful. So if that's something that you're looking for, I definitely recommend looking into Texas. Within this list of top 5 cities to move to post-grad, I tried to include a city from all different areas of the US to fit everyone's different vibes. This next city is another southern city, but a little bit of a different vibe. Next is Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was able to visit both of the Carolinas last year. I went to Charleston for my friend's bachelorette party, and then her wedding was in Raleigh later that year. And from what I experienced of both the Carolinas, I really enjoyed. The Carolinas are beautiful southern states that definitely give that southern hospitality feel. Like, it's very homey. The people are very nice, but you also get the beach vibe because they're on the East Coast. So you have that proximity to the city, but also to nature and like the beach and the Appalachian Mountains. So it's a really good mix of both. Like I said, both of the Carolinas and Charlotte specifically give like a homey hometown type of feel. There's a lot of like culture and heritage and history there from when I visited. It's like it's big city with a small town feel type of vibe. Charlotte is very cute, and I feel like the Carolinas are growing a lot. One, because of that proximity to the city, as well as like getting a vibe from the coast, but there's also a lot of job opportunities out there as well. There's different Fortune 500 companies there, like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Duke Energy, and there's so many opportunities in tech on the rise as well. There's a lot of young people moving there, as like the natives stay there, but there's a lot of young people moving there as well because of that. In addition to having like a population of young people, there's also like a pretty good population of like young families there. The social life is also really good because while it is kind of touristy, being like close to the beach, it's not as touristy as like Charleston, which is right on the water. So you're going to be able to find things to do, but not feel like overwhelmed with all the people. There's a lot of things to do and it's less expensive to have fun because it's not like as touristy. There's a lot of breweries there if that's your vibe, but there's also, fun to do that doesn't involve alcohol. There's different walking trails. Like I said, the nature is super, super beautiful out there. And the Carolinas have some really good college sports teams. I know college sports are big out there. So if that's your vibe, I would definitely recommend. The cost of living is also relatively decent. The average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,600. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but there's other things that help mitigate that cost of living and like bring it down. There's really good public transportation in Charlotte with the metro. So if you live close to a metro line or like along a metro line, that'll definitely impact your cost of living. So I think public transportation is also something to keep in mind and something that not a lot of these major cities in the US have, unfortunately. So if that's something that you value, I would definitely look into Charlotte as well. But in addition to that accessible travel, like within the city, it's also pretty accessible to other major cities. Like in North Carolina, there's also Raleigh. Hopefully I'm saying that right, which is another major city in North Carolina that a lot of young people are moving to as well. Also close to South Carolina and literally the entirety of the East Coast. It's a super short flight to like New York or Boston. The beach is only a 3 or 4 hour drive, which is really convenient, but again, the traffic is not ideal. I feel like that's such a thing in the South, maybe because a lot of people are like moving to southern states, but the traffic in the Carolinas is not cute either. So just beware of that when moving. But overall, I would say Charlotte is a very cute, like homey city that gives you that southern hospitality vibe. It's very warm. You'll experience seasons as well, even though it's in the South and like it gets hot. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like Texas hot, you know what I mean? Like Texas, we're in the 100s, 110s like consistently during the summer, and our summer lasts for like most of the year. In Charlotte, and like the Carolinas, I would say that's not the case. You're more likely to experience seasons over there. Overall, a really great city, and a really great city if you're a person of color as well, especially my Black kings and queens out there. I have a couple of friends who have moved from Charlotte who speak pretty highly of it. So I definitely recommend if you're looking for more of your community. Moving on to city number 3. This city is still in the southern region of the US, but is more focused on nature, healthy lifestyle, things like that. And that city is Denver, Colorado. Denver, in terms of cost of living, is 12 to 13% above the national average, which is unfortunate, but the average utilities are around 14% lower than the national average. So it kind of balances out. It's somewhat comparable to LA in terms of like cost of living, but you still have breathing room for your expenses and like money management. When you think of Denver, you think of nature, mountains, things like that, and that's definitely prominent in the city. There's different hiking trails, and I feel like because of the surrounding nature and like that, I guess, healthy vibe that it gives off, that definitely reflects within the city, because people are, up early at 5-6 a.m. getting on with their day, hiking, working, whatever it is they're doing, and they live like pretty healthy lifestyles, which I think is good and will, help motivate someone if they move there. A lot of the social activities and things to do can revolve around that. Like there's different hiking trails and different ways for you to engage with like the nature around there, whether it's a lake, whether it's a mountain, whatever it may be. In turn, the nightlife is not as poppin' as other cities. Like you don't go to Denver to party, you know what I mean? You go there for a very different vibe. So if that's something that's important to you, I would definitely keep that in mind. While there are things to do like within the city of Denver, you're also close to other major cities. Like California is super close, so you can travel to LA, San Diego, San Francisco, things like that, and as well as the other surrounding states. In my research, I learned that there's a lot of transplants moving to Denver, so there's more people there like every single day. But caveat, there's not a lot of diversity there unless you're in the city, specifically Denver and Aurora, which is like a neighboring city. There's more of a Hispanic population there than Black, but overall there's not a lot of diversity there. You have to seek it out. Like there's, definitely pockets of people, but you're definitely gonna spend more time seeking it out than in other cities. So I would definitely keep that in mind if you're a POC. I think that's super important to think about as you, build this next chapter of your life and start to build a community around you. It's important to keep people around that share similar walks of life. And I'm not, deterring anyone from Denver, Colorado, but definitely wanted to share that PSA. I wanted to include the city on the list just because it is of a different pace than a lot of the cities that people recommend moving to. They're a lot more quicker and like hustle and ambition and things like that, which is great. Like that's definitely my vibe, but I know that's not everyone else's vibe. And I feel like Denver is a good city to live in if you want to be in a city and still get that city vibe, but want it packaged up in a way that's a little bit more accessible, slow pace, feels more sustainable. We're moving all the way to the West Coast with city number 4. I feel like I had to include a city in California on this list just because California is obviously aspirational for a lot of different people, and there's plenty of beautiful, amazing cities in California for people to live in, especially transplants and young adults. There's so much on and popping out there, as we all know. But the city that I wanted to include on this list is San Diego. San Diego is beautiful. I went there for my birthday a couple of years ago and honestly had a great time. I feel like the culture there is really great, especially because it's like so close to the border with Mexico. And I think, what is the town there? I think Tijuana, that's close. I don't remember. But with that being said, the culture there is really rich. The food there is so good. I had such a good time there. The nightlife was so fun. There's plenty of streets. I feel like it's kind of similar to Dallas, where there's like a bunch of streets of clubs and bars for you to go to, which is really fun. And you're definitely going to find your vibe out there. While there's a lot of young people who live there who are native or like transplants who are, partying and doing whatever, I feel like San Diego is also a good town for families as well. There's a lot of surrounding suburbs that I noticed that feel very safe and like had a lot of families in living there. There's a lot of things to do within the city, whether you're working corporate. There's a lot of, tech companies out there, and you still have access to other like Fortune 500 companies. But there's also proximity to the creative scene, and like you're close to LA, and even within the city of San Diego, there's a really nice creative scene out there as well. Outside of work, there's definitely so much to do within the city, especially with the proximity to the beach and like nature and outdoor activities. You get both the beach and the mountains in San Diego, which is really amazing. I remember when I visited, we did so many like activities. We went kayaking in the ocean, which was terrifying. And I lost my phone in the ocean, but luckily one of the ladies working at the little kayak place found it and was a lifesaver. That was a really terrifying moment, but needless to say, there's a lot of things that you can do. You can like hike, there's different walking trails, lakes, people are letting their dogs out. It's a very like open, active city. Like I said, there's also super good food. This little area called Little Italy is a very cute like street area, like city center, where there's a lot of good food, little shops and bars that you can pop around in. It's a really cute area. I feel like the sports scene in San Diego is a little different than other cities. Like there's not really like a good football team out there, but I know baseball is definitely big out there. So if baseball is your vibe, the city is for you, but you can obviously, travel to different areas to get your sports fix. But in saying that, again, traffic is something to keep in mind. It's definitely not as bad as LA or Dallas, so you don't have to do as much mental preparation for that. But there's definitely still traffic because it is a major city. There is a lot of people there, obviously, with being a major city, but San Diego is one of the top 15 safest cities in the US. So if you're a transplant and you're moving, you don't know anyone, especially if you're living alone, I would definitely add San Diego to your list if it's one that you can afford, because, cost of living is still very tough. If you have like a job offer out of college that is paying you pretty decent, I would look to San Diego. Just, give it a little look, give it a little gander. But I think that safety piece is super important, especially, if you're a woman living alone, definitely want to keep that in mind. So now we've covered 2 cities along each coast. We got Charlotte, North Carolina and San Diego. I feel like between the two, if we wanted to compare them, San Diego is more like artsy, fun, lively type vibes. Obviously it's in California, so it's very like loud and proud and all the things that come with being in California. While on the flip side, Charlotte is on the coast, but a little bit more like inland. And like I said, it's more of like that homey, small town in a big city type feel. So you feel, I would say, like more at home within Charlotte if you wanted to compare to the 2 cities. If you're looking at another city to live in along the West Coast, I want to give an honorable mention to Seattle. Seattle is not as, beachy as California or San Diego, but it is a really great city that a lot of transplants are moving to, especially with like the jobs in tech with Amazon out there. T-Mobile is out there. I think Whole Foods is in Austin. There's another food company that Starbucks is headquartered there. Nike is up there in like the Oregon, Portland region. There's definitely a lot of different companies up there that I think people don't really think about. But Seattle, Portland area is another like artsy type area where you're going to get that, creative feel, but you're also going to be in nature and accessible to like mountains, Washington State, different things like that. But you're also close to the beach. The beach is not the beach in California, definitely 2 different beach vibes, but Seattle is a very beautiful city. I visited a couple times that area, as well as like Portland. The PNW is really nice. If nature is your vibe, I would definitely look into Seattle. I would say the cost of living there is more up there. I would say comparable to like, honestly, California, because they're on the same coast. So I would just keep that in mind when doing your research. But I feel like it's still accessible if you're able to, cover the costs. The only thing there, while you're still on the coast, you're more up north. So like the weather is like not that great, with the rain and like the Seattle freeze, and it's like gloom and doom for most of the year. But like the summers there, when it's summer, everybody is outside because the summer doesn't last as long and the weather is like perfect summer weather. But Seattle is a really beautiful city. Anytime you're driving, you're going to see mountains, and it's literally unreal, especially for someone like me who's coming from Texas where it's all flat and dry and dirty and dusty and nasty. Like anytime I'm in Seattle, I am like in awe. The only thing is like it's very gorp. If you don't know what gorp means, it means good old raisin and peanuts. So, you know, it's like that earthy vibe. The what are the shoes? Tevas, Tecovas, whatever, you know, those strappy sandals that people be wearing. Yeah, it's giving that for most of the city, but you'll be able to find your tribe. There's a really large Asian population there as well, and the food there is really good. But yeah, honorable mention Seattle. Shout out to Seattle. But moving right along, wanted to get into the last city on this list, which I think is underrated and one that was definitely not on my radar when I was thinking about moving and doing recruiting during my senior year of college and all that fun stuff. And it's where I've spent my life over the past 3-4 years, and that is Columbus, Ohio. And when you think of Ohio, you don't think of much. At least I didn't when I was first introduced to Ohio and was introduced to Columbus as a prospective city for me to live in post-grad. But over time, I found the cute little moments, the cute little areas of Columbus, and it's grown on me. It's definitely one that might take a little bit of getting used to, but it's cute for what it is, and you're able to have some fun. This is the city that I've spent basically my entire like post-grad career in since graduating from college. So I've been able to, you know, build my life up, build community around me, and I've had a great time thus far. I would say the cost of living is really good, especially if you're like in a transition period and you're maybe making your way towards like a bigger city. If you're working towards like an LA or New York or San Diego, I feel like Columbus is a good transitional city for you to like live in and like save your money and meet new people before you get to your ultimate destination, because the cost of living is around 7% lower than the national average, and the average rent is around like 12 to 13 1400 for a 1-bedroom apartment. I paid like around 1300 including fees and utilities, so it's pretty decent. I would say the social life in Columbus is growing. I started off with a lot of friends from work because we all entered through like a college program type thing that allowed us to connect with others because we were all in the same boat of like moving somewhere for a job post-grad and doing it for the first time together. So that was a really great experience. It took me a while to like make friends outside of work, but once I did, it became easier to continue to meet people outside of work, which was really great. And I've been able to, again, build a really great social life around me. As a creative, I've also discovered that Columbus has a really up and coming creative scene, especially an up and coming fashion scene. There's a lot of designers and stylists and different creatives working in Columbus that I think are slept on. I was definitely not aware of Columbus's game until I moved there, but there's a lot of really amazing, talented creatives in the city of Columbus. In addition to that, there's also like a lot of job opportunities within the creative space. It's definitely not like LA or New York, obviously, but there's different fashion companies out there like Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie, DSW is, I mean, kind of creative-ish, but there's different retailers out there that you can dip your toe in the water within the creative space. There's also a lot of other corporations for people to work out, including Tech, Intel, which is being built or already built in New Albany, which is 30 minutes outside of Columbus. There's Deloitte, there's a Chase office there. So a lot of job opportunity there. I feel like especially a lot of different companies based in Columbus and Ohio are doing like leadership development programs that recruit people straight out of college, like straight out of undergrad, which is how I got there. And that's how they're like enticing people to move there, because like I said, when you think about cities to move to post-grad, Ohio is not at the top of a lot of people's list, but maybe after this video, it might be. So outside of work, there are things to do there. I mentioned the creative scene, but there's always like little markets on the weekends, different things like that. Nightlife in particular, y'all, is interesting. I've definitely had some good nights in Columbus, but one thing is Columbus is a college town, home of Ohio State University. And while like the college vibe is great, like college sports, college football, especially when Ohio State is playing, is always like a time. Going to a game is always a time. I would recommend doing that, or going to like a watch party. That's always so fun. And when people go out after, it's always a ball. But with, the school around the corner, especially in like Austin too, there's going to be college kids at like the bars and things. Even if you're not like at the bars that are like close to campus, there will be nights when you're surrounded by like very young children, or at least people who look like very young children. And that's not my vibe, y'all. I'm past that point. I am a grown woman now, and I need to be surrounded by other grown folk. And there's definitely spots where the grown folk hang, but I feel like Columbus is getting a little bit too big for its head. Like, people are charging covers there now, and the covers are increasing a little bit, and I don't like that. Columbus, Ohio is definitely not like no big city type vibe where people need to be charging $40, $30 covers. It's definitely not giving that. So keep that in mind when experiencing the nightlife in Columbus. But like I said, there's definitely spots that you can hit up. There's spots that I've grown to know and love during my time in Columbus. There's also a really great drag scene out there that I didn't really know. There's a couple of different gay bars that host a lot of different drag related events, like a drag brunch or like a drag night, that are super fun. The Pride Parade in Columbus every single year is also a really amazing event to attend, and a lot of different companies show up for that event. The food is also pretty good in Columbus. I have so many great restaurants that I love, and Columbus specifically has made me love Brussels sprouts, and I never thought I would say that in my life, but the way that they cook them are quite delicious. And fun fact, Columbus is actually a test city, so in terms of like marketing and product testing, the city of Columbus is a pretty accurate representation of like a sample of the US population. So a lot of different restaurants or companies will like test their product or like their restaurant idea out in Columbus before rolling it out to different cities. So you'll get to experience a lot of unique foods and unique restaurants, unique experiences, things like that, because Columbus is a test city, which I think is a really cool fun fact. It's also walkable if you live like downtown, which I think is the case for a lot of different cities. Like, obviously you can walk around downtown for the most part in most cities, but Columbus, I feel like, is pretty accessible in the downtown area and the surrounding downtown area. You can like walk to get a coffee, you can walk to the bars. It's pretty chill, and it's pretty safe for the most part. I always felt pretty safe, and I lived on the first floor of an apartment for the better part of 3 years, which I don't want to do again in the future. But I never felt like unsafe in my space, which is really important, because also, a woman by herself in a new city can be dangerous. But I never felt unsafe. Obviously, don't be doing things past a certain time, and don't be in areas that you shouldn't be in. But for the most part, I felt pretty safe in Columbus. Actually, now that I think about it, in recent years, if you're going out on the weekend after like the bars close at like 2, even after 1 a.m., people start to get a little bit rowdy, a little bit frisky. So I would just be mindful of that. There's been an uptick in like violence in the areas where people are going out, and the bars and clubs, which is scary. But most of the time, I would say it's a pretty safe city. If you're bored with Columbus, you could always drive out to Cleveland or Cincinnati. Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus are the big three of Ohio. Oh, they all start with C too. But Cleveland is home to, is it the Cleveland Browns? Is that LeBron's team, or is that the football team? Y'all, that's not my journey, so please don't flame me in the comments, but you can drive like 2 hours to both of those cities, experience that. They're not like super great, but it's a different vibe for the weekend getaway if you want. You could always drive up north as well. The lake, I don't remember the lake that borders North Ohio, which one it is, but that's always a cute drive. And the amusement park up there, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called, but there's an amusement park up there that's also really fun. And if you are down for more road trips. It's pretty quick to drive to other cities. I mean, not quick, but it's like a reasonable drive. I took a road trip from Columbus to Toronto, Canada. 6-hour drive, but it was doable. It was a lot of fun. Chicago, I think, is around 6 hours driving, around a 1 hour to 1.5 hour flight. That's relatively cheap. You can drive 5 hours to Tennessee. I did that with my girls a couple years ago and had a great girls trip. That was a good time. But because Ohio is so small, it's like pretty easy and quick to get to other major cities and other states in comparison to Texas, where, like I said, you're going to drive 10 hours and still be in Texas, unfortunately. So I like that it's accessible in terms of travel to other cities, especially in the Northeast. Like, it's pretty easy to get to New York, and all the cities in like the New England area, which is really nice. There are a couple of cons about living in Columbus, though. This first one, it might depend on who you ask, but I feel like people drive slow there. I don't know if that's like a Midwest thing or an Ohio thing, but coming from Texas, where like your minimum speed is like 80 miles per hour, being in Ohio, like I was bobbing and weaving and trying to like move because people were driving so slow. And it was really annoying. One thing though, the traffic is definitely not as bad as Dallas or Texas. It's so minimal in comparison to home, which is really great. And I absolutely love that. I can get to most places within like 15 minutes, which is amazing. But yeah, people do be driving slow. Number 2, while I did list like different things to do, there's like things to do, but there's not things to do. As you like spend more time in the city, you'll discover the things to do. Like I said, there's different markets and concerts, but like besides sports and stuff, you'll have to like find the different pockets that you can integrate yourself into in order to find the things to do. That'll come like over time for sure, but when you first get there, you're gonna be like, why the heck did I move there? Because that was definitely me. But over time, like I said, it became really great. And then lastly, I didn't realize this until I moved there, but Columbus is a pretty cloudy city. Like, it's very comparable to Seattle. Like, even I know Seattle is like known for being like gloomy most of the year, but Columbus, I would say, is up there and maybe even competing with Seattle in terms of like the gloominess. It'd be really cloudy there some days, and like the cold is like a biting cold in the winter that I do not enjoy. As a Southern girl, it really hurts my heart and hurts my fingers when I can't feel them. So like the winter can be brutal, but when it's summertime, the people are outside, the people are walking, the people are having a good time, and it's honestly really nice in the summers. I didn't realize Columbus also introduced me to fireflies. I didn't realize that like fireflies were actually real. Like, I've always seen them in cartoons when I was young, but the first time I saw one in person was in Columbus, Ohio, and it was really life-changing for me. So let me have my moment, okay? But yeah, Ohio is an underrated city. It has beautiful views, beautiful people. Beautiful. No shade, y'all. The dating scene is interesting, but for the most part, Columbus is a good city, and I would definitely say a good transitional city if you're trying to make your way to like a bigger place. So those are the top 5 cities you should move to post-grad. If you are trying to figure out where you should move to post-grad and you kind of like this list, but there's others that you're considering, don't worry, I got you. I made a quiz that you can take in order to figure out where you should move to next. That takes into account different things that you like nature, job opportunities, things like that. And you can take that quiz at the link in the description. I hope this episode was helpful. Like I said, I'm not a professional city researcher, but I wanted to give you a somewhat comprehensive list that will give you a good starting point as you're considering different cities to live in. Obviously, there's so many different cities in the US, in the world, that are good, viable options, but I tried to narrow down to some that I think are mid-tier, somewhat affordable, somewhat things that you may not have considered previously to give you a good starting point. And like I said, if you want me to do a deep dive into any of these cities, please leave them in the comments below. Y'all, I can't believe this is a wrap for season 2. It took me longer than expected to finish this season just because of some life transitions I've been going through this year that I will share more upon at a later time. But I am so grateful for the guests that I had on this season. I feel like season 2 was really great. I had some really great episodes that I was really excited about. But if there's any topics that you want me to cover in season 3 and beyond, please let me know, because I want this show to be as helpful to you as possible. Alrighty, that is it for today. Please be sure to follow Transplants Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, and follow the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the things. Please be sure to follow and leave a review, because that really helps out the show. That is all from me. Okay, I'm done with the promo. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you're not as alone as you think.